Ye cha pralamba kara dadura keshi arishta mala ibha kamsa yavanaha kapi pundraka aja anye cha salva kuja balavala dantavakra sapta uksha sambara vidurata rukmi mukyaha ye va mride samiti salinaha ata chapaha kamboja matsya kuru shinjaya kaikaya adayaha yashyanti adarshanam alam bala parta bhima vyajhavayena harena nilayam tadiyam. Okay. Ye cha pralamba karada dura keshya rishta maleba kamsa yavana kapi pondra kadyaha anye cha salva kujabalva ladanta vakra saptoksha sambara vidurata rukmi mukyaha ye va mride samiti salnina atta chapaha kamboja matsya kura shinjaya kaikayadaha yadayaha yashyantya darshanam alam bala parta bhima vyajadvayena harina nilayam tadiyam. Ye cha pralamba karada dura keshya rishta maleba kamsa yavana kapi pondra kadyaha anye cha salva kuja balva ladanta vakra saptoksha sambara vidurat rukmi mukyaha ye va mride samiti salnina atta chapaha kamboja matsya kura shinjaya kaikayadyaha yashyantya darshanam alam bala parta bhima vyajajvayena harina nilayam tadiyam. Ye cha pralamba karada dura keshya rishta Maleba kamsa yavana kapi ponja kadyaha. Anye cha salva kujabalva vadanta vakra. Shaptoksha sambara viduratvukmi mukyaha. Yeva mrede samiti salina atta chapaha. Kamboja matsya kuru sunjaya kaikayadyaha. Yasyantya darshanam alambala parta bhima. Vyajajvayena harina nilam tadiyam. Okay. Okay, so can do the word for word. Let's make Yea, all those. Cha, totally. Pralamba, the demon named Pralamba. Kara, Dhenukasura. Dadura, Bakasura. Keshi, the Keshi demon. Arishta, the demon Arishtasura. Mala, wrestlers in the court of Kamsa. Ibha, Kuvalayapida. Kamsa, the king of Mathura and the maternal uncle of Krishna. Yavanaha, the kings of Persia and other adjoining places. Kapi, Dvivida, Pondraka Adayaha, Pondraka and others. Anye, others. Cha, as much as. Salva, King Salva. Puja, Narakasura. Balvala, King Balvala. Dantavakra, the brother of Shishupal, a dead rival of Krishna's. Sapta Uksha, the 7 bulls. Sambara, King Sambar. Vidorath, King Vidorath. Rukmi, Vukyaha, the brother of Rukmini, the first queen of Krishna at Dwarka. What? The 7 bulls? And the word is split up differently also. Anyways, I don't know. I guess we'll see what the translation says. Oh no. Okay, anyways. No, we'll see what the translation. Okay, so, yeah. So, yea, all those. Va, either. Ride, in the battlefield. Samita Shalinaha, all very powerful. Atachapaha, well equipped with bows and arrows. Kamboja, the king of Kamboja. Matsya, the king of Dwarbanga. Kuru, the sons of Dhritarashtra. Srinjaya, King Srinjaya. KĽKša Adayaha, the king of KĽKša and others. Yashyanti, would attain. Adarshanam, and personal merging with the Brahmajyoti. Alam, what to speak of. Bala, Baladev, the elder brother of Krishna. Partha, Arjuna. Bhima, the second Pandava. Vyajad Avayena, by the false names. Harina, by Lord Hari. Nilayam, the abode. Tadiyam, of him. Anyways, in translation it says the 7 bulls. All translation of purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. All demoniac personalities like Pralamba, Dhenuka, Baka, Keshi, Arishta, Tranura, Mushtika, Kuvalayapida, elephant, Kamsa, Kalayavana, Narakasura, and Pondraka, great marshals like Salva, Dvivida monkey, and Balava, Dantavakra, the 7 bulls, Sambara, Vidorath, and Rukmi, and as also great warriors like Kamboja, Matsya, Kuru, Srinjaya, and KĽKša, would all fight vigorously, either with the Lord Hari directly or with him under his names of Baladev, Arjuna, Bhima, etc. And the demons thus being killed would attain either the impersonal Brahmajyoti or its personal abode in the Vaikuntha planets. All manifestations in both the material and spiritual worlds are demonstrations of the different potencies of Lord Krishna. The personality of Godhead, Baladev, is his immediate personal expansion, and Bhima, Arjuna, etc. are his personal associates. The Lord would appear, and he does so whenever he appears, with all his associates and potencies. Therefore, the rebellious souls, like the demons and demoniac men mentioned by the names like Pralamba, would be killed either by the Lord himself or by his associates. All these affairs will be clearly explained in the 10th canto. But we should know well that all the above mentioned living entities killed would attain salvation either by being merged in the Brahmajyoti of the Lord or being allowed to enter into the abodes of the Lord called Vaikunthas. This has already been explained by Bhishma Dev, first canto. All persons who participated in the battlefield of Kurukshetra or otherwise with the Lord or with Baladev, etc., would benefit by attaining spiritual existence according to the situation of their minds at the time of death. Those who recognized the Lord would enter Vaikuntha, and those who estimated the Lord as only a powerful being would attain salvation by merging into the spiritual existence of the impersonal Brahmajyoti of the Lord. But every one of them would get released from material existence. Since such is the benefit of those who played with the Lord inimically, one can imagine what would be the position of those who devoutly serve the Lord in a transcendental relationship with him. Om Agana Timanandasha Gananjandana Salakaya Chakshurlun Munitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Katamayam Dadati Swambarantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganavtam Mitam Tam Shajivam Savadavitam Savadutam Parijana Saritam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Raditam Shri Vishakam Vitam Sha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimante Bhakti Vikas Swami Nitinamane Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimante Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shunivari Pachkritaris Tarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. All right. All demoniac personalities like Pralamba, Denuka, Baka, Keshi, Arishta, Charna, Mashtika, Kuvalayapida, Elephant, Kamsa, Kalayavana, Narakasura, and Pondraka, great marshals like Salva, Davida, Monkey, and Balava, Dantavakra, the seven bulls, Sambara, Vidorath, and Rukmi, as also great warriors like Kamboja, Matsya, Kuru, Srinjai, and Kekaya, would all fight vigorously, either with the Lord Hari directly or with him under his names of Baladev, Arjuna, Bhima, etc. And the demons thus being killed would attain either the impersonal Brahmajyoti or his personal abode in the Vaikuntha planets. So this is the verse, at least in this chapter, which will, as far as I know, I may be wrong, but that will conclude the pastimes of Krishna as far as Brahma, like delineating them or speaking them in brief. The next one that Lord Brahma will mention will be Vyasadeva, the literary incarnation of the Lord. So this, I forget how many verses this was. I think around some 8 or so, something around that. It was a good bit. So it's a good bit. One reason is that because it's important. So Brahma felt that he needed to say many verses, or as he was inspired in that sense to speak many verses describing Krishna and his pastimes. But in brief, just like this verse has mentioned so many different names, but then, these are like there's chapters dedicated to most of these individuals in the Krishna book, and not just chapters, but most of them have a lot to do with the Krishna's life in that sense of his Leela. And so this is the final verse of that. And so so much can be said about that. And a lot of these verses too, they mention different, if you go back and look at it, I guess you could say like different opponents are just, whatever, just demons that would disturb Krishna's pastimes or cause problems in his pastimes. But really, from Krishna's perspective, it is not so much of a problem because, he's all powerful and all knowing. We don't really feel so much of a problem of, like if a leaf falls on our head or something, we don't really consider that a big like disturbance. So these kings and all these great demons are just like, little specks of dust, just floating here and there. It's not a big deal for Krishna. One thing also is, so all these different names are mentioned, is, of all demoniac personalities. So it's a big list of names of demons. And so a lot of these, some of them are separate, but most of these were KบํSA's intimate associates. You'll see that when you read the beginning of Krishna book, he calls in his cabinet of his associates. So that cabinet, I think, I don't remember all the names, but Mustika is mentioned, Bakasura, Agasura, KĽ, Trona. I think even some of these kings might have been there. And they all give him, Pralamba is there, and they all advise him, to, kill, go find that baby wherever that baby's born and kill him, Krishna. And so I believe Narakasura. Anyways, he was associated with all these big demons and things like that. So generally, in the material world, when we speak of someone evil or someone bad, there's plenty of people. I don't need to name names, but like great serial killers or even great generals who would mercilessly kill millions of people, or they would eat people for breakfast or lunch or things like that. There are, or I don't know if there still are, but there were dictators like that would eat his enemies for breakfast. So generally people don't like to discuss those things, or they're like, sore spots in history or controversial things like that, and it's not very exciting to speak of those things. And it can be depressing, it can be disturbing, and people can be scarred in that sense of just speaking. This is just Kali Yuga. But when we hear the names of Pralamba, Dhenaka, KบํSA, all these evil, wicked personalities, we immediately think of Krishna because they have connection to Krishna, because Krishna killed them. And even though they did atrocious things like KบํSA killing the sons of Devaki and the children, and like that also these other people, they did different things. Charna and Mustika, from the relative perspective, they were big, huge wrestlers trying to wrestle with young men, 16 years old. And so the people, when they saw that, they were thinking, what is this? This is an injustice. So these personalities, and some too may have been a little bit more dharmic than others, just like Jarasandhar. He's not mentioned here directly, but he was known for being, very inclined to Brahminical culture. But he also was known for capturing kings and locking them away, and in that sense, in his dungeon or whatever he kept them. So these individuals, they have connection with Krishna, and so they're, in that sense, thinking and talking about them invokes Krishna consciousness, because we think, when we say KบํSA, we don't think of just KบํSA and he ruled his state, this and that. It's connected to Krishna. KบํSA, his Leela and like that, and he ruled Mathura, and then Krishna ultimately killed him. But in today's day and age, when we think of, some of these wicked personalities, we don't really connect it so well to Krishna. in that sense. So Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he mentions a lot of things actually. Well, first off in the translation, he mentions that they would fight either with Lord Hari directly under his names of Baladev, Arjuna, Bhima, etc. So without proper understanding, or the acharyas explaining in the purport, one can drive out, well then, Krishna, Arjuna, Bhima, like that, it's the same, it's all the same, that Arjuna is Krishna, and like that is Mayavad nonsense. But it's not that. Prabhupada explains in the purport, I don't know if he actually explains it here verbatim, but the proper understanding is that those individuals are empowered by Krishna to do his work, because they, as commonly explained, is that the devotees of the Lord, they desire the same will of the Lord, so they carry out the will, and then the desire and like that is the same. I'll just read a small thing here from this is Sanatana Goswami, but it substantiates this point. I think he's actually commenting upon this verse. So he's explaining like in detail. So Lord Balaram killed Dhanaka, Dravida, Ballava, and others. Pradumna killed Sambara. Muchukunda killed Kalyavana, and Bhima, Arjuna, and other devotees killed enemies like the king of Kamboj. But actually Krishna himself killed these demons. Krishna simply acted through the agency of his devotees to let them share the glories of his acts. So, has everybody read Krishna book, or kind of a, yeah. So unless you've read Krishna book, or you can see past, present, and future like Lord Brahma, you won't understand who all these personalities are or what exactly happened. I'll speak about some of these individuals, but the thing here is that Krishna, in most of these cases, either directly or indirectly, he gave the intelligence of his devotees or like that how to kill these demons. Like it's mentioned here, what was it? So Kalyavana, that's in brief, Kalyavana chased Krishna into a cave, and so he thought, I don't know what he thought exactly, if Krishna was sleeping on the ground or what, but anyway, somehow or other, he kicked Muchukunda, who was sleeping on the floor, and then Muchukunda woke up and killed him, because Muchukunda asked for a benediction that whoever wakes him up from his sleep untimely, they will be burned to ashes. So Krishna arranged that Kalyavana would get killed by Muchukunda in that way. He led him there in that sense. So when Krishna comes to this material world, when he advents himself, he comes with his expansions and with his associates, like is mentioned here, Baladev and the Pandavas and many others also. And in his other expansions also, like when Lord Ramachandra comes, he comes with his associates. You have the Lakshmana and Shatrughna, like this, and then also there's Vishwamrita and things, and there's in Dasarath. There's so many different associates that come when the Supreme Personality of Godhead advents himself. And so they perform different functions, and then they assist in his Leela, or they may fight or kill in this way. Also Hanuman, Sugriva, in this way. So, but one thing is that when the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes, he creates, naturally sometimes, but sometimes more than others, but he creates, I wouldn't say he so much himself creates, but it's just naturally there, but he creates a polarizing situation. Sometimes it's said that, some devotees, they don't like to dress as devotees or wear a tilak or whatever, because they don't like to polarize. I don't, they speak in that way, polarize, or they don't like to make a distinction between, to show in society that I'm different from your values, or, I don't want to dress the way you want to dress or whatever. I don't want to wear blue jeans and t-shirt, or I don't want to wear a mini skirt and whatever, like that. So some devotees sometimes say like that, well, I don't want to polarize in society. But the thing is that wherever there's Krishna, there's going to be a clear delineation by who's a demon and who's a deva. And the Shastra explains that there's two types of living entities, that there's the devas and the suras. And what is this? Devas, Tad, Vishnu, bhakta, anyways, I'm probably saying it wrong, but the asura tad viparya, that the asuras, that they're opposed to Vishnu. So in the broad sense of the term, that wherever there is Krishna, there either one has to engage in Krishna service or not engage in Krishna service. It's not really like a middle ground. Well, I mean, that, well, I'm like kind of for Krishna sometimes and then I'm not for him sometimes, like that. Either one is for Krishna or one is against Krishna. There's mixed devotional service, of course, and there's different like grades in that sense. But as we see, especially with these demoniac personalities, they felt threatened by Krishna. And so they took action and they tried to stop him in different ways, according to the degree that they felt that their sense gratification was being impeded. And they all had their way in which, aham janasya, ahammameti, in which they were thinking, I, me, and mine. Some were thinking that, whatever, concept, this is my kingdom, and this is that, and this is my life, I have to protect it. And Kulyapita, I don't really know what he was thinking, but, he just, I guess they were telling him to kill Krishna, so he was some angry, strong elephant. Salva, Dantavakra was angry when Salva was killed, so he went to kill Krishna immediately. Rukmi was fried out that, Krishna was, he was envious of Krishna, and so he didn't want his sister to marry Krishna. So he was trying to arrange in that way for him to be married to Shishupal. And then all those kings were there, I believe Vidura, Dantavakra, Salva, Jarasandhar, when Krishna stole Rukmini from I forget the name of that city. Anyways. Anybody remember the city in which, anyways? No. I forget. Anyways, so Krishna came and he stole Rukmini from from that situation and from all those kings. And so they were fried out and angry with him in that sense. None of them were thinking, well, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Rukmini is his eternal associate, the goddess of fortune. So therefore, as a proper match, and they belong to be together, and we should all be happy and rejoice. But they were thinking that this jackal has stolen a great booty from these pride of lions. We have to kill Krishna. And so they were thinking in that sense, because Krishna polarizes the situation. And we see similar instances with Lord Chaitanya also. So whenever there's the preaching of Krishna consciousness and the spreading of Krishna consciousness, materialistic people will get angry and get threatened by that. And we can try to be nice and we can try to be peaceful. And we should be calm and kind with people in the material world in due course of on a day-to-day routine, not that, we're just trying to agitate people unnecessarily, but people will be agitated when they understand the actual import of Krishna consciousness and when they understand some of the principles also. They'll be disturbed by that and they'll be angry. And Krishna consciousness does that. And Krishna dealt with that, and his devotees deal with that, and there's nothing that can be done about that. Prabhupada mentions here rebellious souls. All these souls are rebellious. So naturally, they'll be opposed to the pure message of Krishna consciousness. And some of these people, too, they followed the Vedas. They were truthful, honest, followed the codes of fighting and different things like that. Some of them, some more than others. Some not so much. Just like we mentioned in the previous verses, was this Sankachuda, I think. So yeah, Sankachuda. So he wasn't really much of a follower of the Vedas because he was trying to run off with some women. And also Dvivida is mentioned here. He was going around and raping women and destroying, causing problems, and he was trying to rip off the clothes of the gopis with Balaram, and Balaram's clothes also, and he was flashing his genitals. And so this is, he was a monkey, so I guess he had some room for that to, show his genitals. But this is demoniac behavior. So So everybody has a choice individually to decide whether to follow Krishna's lead or not follow Krishna's lead. And the thing is that Krishna is leading. He's in charge. He's the controller. Not that, Krishna may sometimes, out of devotion, take the humble position and become a servant of his devotees, as was seen with Krishna driving the chariot of Arjuna. And even too, demoniac people, even sometimes they may think, well, if Krishna is under my control, what's the use? Just like Duryodhana was thinking that, if Krishna's not going to fight, then what's the point of having him on my side of the what's the point of having him in my army? Better take all of his forces, because what's the use? So even, the demoniac tendency, Krishna may be willing to, not that Krishna was willing, but Krishna knew that Duryodhana wouldn't take him anyway. But then he's, what's the point? What's the use? Krishna won't fight. He won't, So they would maybe even reject Krishna in that sense also. What's the point of having Krishna on my side if he won't fight? And so that's the mentality. Just think, of the material energy of so many different ways in which this enviness of Krishna manifests. But it's, going as far as thinking, well, how can I engage Krishna in my service for my plans? This was the Duryodhana mentality. And so all these different main names here mentioned too, they had so much hate and so much intense envy for Krishna. It wasn't, it was some light thing or whatever. It was really strong and really intense. And so for years, some of these different individuals, they cultivated this intense envy and this intense hatred for Krishna. And we can only imagine. None of us here have such strong hatred of Krishna. And even in the material world too, we don't really see that so much. We see some people that they hate God or they're atheistic or whatever, and then like that. But they were really just, especially Kamsa and some of these other people, Pondraka so much. Kamsa so much so. He was. It's mentioned in other purports of Srila Prabhupada that he was meditating upon Krishna so intensely with so much hatred, and all he was thinking about was Krishna, and then in that, just focusing so much. Pondraka was also similarly meditating on Krishna, but in a different sense, because he was thinking that he was Vasudeva. We hear of that in the later part of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that he was dressed as, Vasudeva with 4 arms, and he had, he wore the yellow dhoti and had a mark of the Srivasta like that. He was attempting to obtain the, Swarupya Mukti, of having the same bodily form of Lord on this particular planet. We see that there are devotees like that they have similar features of Krishna, like Sukadeva Goswami is mentioned like that in Uddhava. And also too, Aniruddha and Pradumna. Pradumna so much so was mentioned that when he came back after killing the Sunbar demon, that when he came into the palace, all the different women in the palace and things, they were at first bashful and attracted because they thought it was Krishna, but then they realized that it wasn't Krishna. So the Acharyas mentioned that they were so bashful and attracted because he looked pretty much like Krishna. So, and Pondraka also looked like Vishnu, like Vasudeva with his 4 arms and things like that. And then I just read that, I think, last night about that. But so much so, he's challenging, and he had his Sudarshan Chakra. It's pretty interesting, actually, and pretty far out. I remember when I first read that pastime, I thought it was funny, and I laughed. And it's a comical pastime, actually, because it's pretty crazy. So even in Krishna's times, there was people that were claiming to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The thing is that, so Pondraka, Srila Jiva Goswami mentions that he obtained a benediction, I believe from Lord Shiva, to look like Vishnu. So he obtained some benediction in that sense. So anyways, so he he hated Krishna so much, and they all hated Krishna for different reasons. He was hating, thinking that this Krishna is pretending to be Vasudeva, but actually I'm Vasudeva. And we discussed that. And then Devious was angry because Krishna killed Narakasura. And Narakasura was his friend. And Narakasura also kidnapped 16,108 women. I thought it was 16,100. I don't know. Because Krishna married 8 principal queens, and then I thought it was 16,100. So anyways, he kidnapped all those women, and then so many different things in that way. So they were all envious of Krishna. And they fought with Krishna, and they all lost. And you think they would get and everyone too that were fighting, they were thinking, well, I'll get Krishna in this way. And then they had their own intellect by which they would think they would defeat Krishna. It's also to mention that Kamsa, Narada Muni explains that, but in a previous life he was killed by Vishnu, and so that added to Kamsa's fuel of his burning fire. And so, and then this way too, then politicking, being demons, and thinking, Krishna did this, Krishna did that. So they were Krishna conscious in one sense, but in the wrong term, and in an unfavorable way, as our acharyas mentioned. And even too, Jarasandha, when he heard that, so when Kamsa was killed, I believe I forget how many wives Kamsa had. I think he had 2. But anyways, 2 of Kamsa's wives, they were daughters of Jarasandha, and so they went back there to Jarasandha. And so he was fried out about that, and so he was angry at Krishna, and he was thinking, what is this that Krishna, he killed his maternal uncle, he disobeyed the Vedas, in this sense, he killed his uncle. And so he was thinking that he has to be killed, this is nonsense. But the Srila Prabhupada mentions that, he was talking about, this is wrong, he did against the Vedas, but there's no mention of Kamsa killing all those babies. That Jarasandha overlooked that point because he's envious. He's trying to find problems with Krishna. And so this is the position actually. All these different kings and things and these demons, they help us remember all the glorious activities that Krishna performed and all the different things that he did. I had one verse here I wanted to read. I'll just find it. I got to figure out exactly where I put it. I think this is it. So this is a similar verse. This is from the 11th canto, chapter 5, text 48. It's more or less similar to this verse. I'll just read the translation. So, inimical kings like Shishupal, Pundraka, and Salva were always thinking about Lord Krishna. Even while they were lying down, sitting, or engaging in other activities, they enviously meditated upon the bodily movements of the Lord, his sporting pastimes, his loving glances upon his devotees, and other attractive features displayed by the Lord. Being thus always absorbed in Krishna, they achieved spiritual liberation in the Lord's own abode. What then can be said of the benedictions offered to those who constantly fix their minds on Lord Krishna in a favorable, loving mood? So this is pretty much, it's practically the same point being made in this verse and then the one I just read in 11th canto. And also too, just to kind of go on to a couple side points before touching more into the essence of this verse. There's a similar verse also. So anyways, I'll touch on a couple points of this. So it's interesting actually. So all these, Shishupal, Pundraka, Salva, the acharyas are explaining, Shishupal we hear so much, but I forget exactly who's speaking this. I think it's pre-Buddha or something like that. So one of the Navayogendras, anyways, are speaking this verse. So they're explaining that, whatever Krishna was doing, they're meditating upon him, and then they're just criticizing him like anything. They're just completely envious in that sense. If Krishna's lying down or he's associating with his devotees, we can only imagine what they're saying. Whatever, look, Krishna or Arjuna, there's some nonsense. Like they were criticizing too. Does Krishna think he's some, He's not a Kshatriya, he's a cowherd boy or that. We don't even know what he is, who his father is some outcast, like that. And then Balaram, it's like, he's a Kshatriya, but then he was growing up in some Vaishya community, and who the heck's this Nanda Maharaj anyway? And then some of these demons too, they were thinking that was this Aghasura. He was thinking that, I'm gonna kill Krishna and his cowherd boys, and then their parents will have to do the sacrifice, and then they'll die because of separation from their kids, and they'll suffer. So they're thinking in that way. And then what to speak of Putana going around and killing other infant children and things like that. So some nasty, envious people. And Krishna's engaging in his pastimes, just like Balaram was engaging in his associating with the gopis in the mountains. And so Dvivida was enviously seeing from afar, thinking, what is this? They're singing, having so much fun, and then he's probably hearing the ankle bells tingling, and he just, what is this? And then seeing also too, because naturally when one is envious and one is in a male body and he sees beautiful women, and he's thinking, well, these women should be enjoying with me. Sankachuta was thinking in that way. And then just so envious and so nasty and ugh. And then, but they're meditating upon Krishna. And then the gopis are looking at Balaram, and Balaram's looking at the gopis, and what is this, nonsense? It's just so envy at heart, because these things actually purify one, and they bring one closer to the platform of Krishna consciousness. But then these demoniac people, because their consciousness is viparita, that verse is also there in the 11th canto. I don't know it. It's another one I have to learn. But it mentions that when one is not Krishna consciousness, I'm paraphrasing, but he becomes fearful, and then he becomes fearful in that sense in the mature world, because he's not Krishna. He has viparya smritihi, which means he has an opposite remembrance or way of thinking. So because, one naturally, when he sees Krishna interacting with his devotees, if one is a little bit purified, that inspires Krishna consciousness within the heart and inspiration to serve. But when that's not there, then one thinks, well, I have to, whatever, like these people think, I have to kill Krishna, I have to kill his associates, in whatever way, I have to make them suffer. And some of these people more than others. And so so they meditate, but they meditate on the wrong thing, there's this Nam, Guna, Rupa, Lila. So they're meditating also on Krishna's Lila, on Krishna's form, on his qualities, but Shishapal is meditating on Krishna's qualities, but thinking, that, like it was mentioned at the Rajasuya sacrifice, Krishna is the most qualified, like that. But then he was already ready with all of his arguments and meditating of how Krishna is not qualified, why are you going to let this person sit on, be honored first when there's other such great personalities here, I think like Vyasadeva and all these things. So the demons are, they have their reasoning, and they're convinced as to why Krishna, is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and why he should be defamed publicly or in whatever way. And his devotees also. They're envious of Krishna, and they're envious of his devotees. And so this is, and it's amazing in one sense how someone could be so envious, but it's even more amazing how Krishna purifies those individuals. I wanted to read another verse also. This is from, what was his name? Satyavrata in his prayers to Matsya. But he chants a nice verse, this Tvam sarva lokasya sadhit priyeshwaro yatma guru jnanam abhishta siddhihi tatapi loko nabhavantam adandir jananti santam hridibadakama. So this last line specifically, this jananti santam hridibadakamaha, specifically means, the whole verse anyways, it's a glorification about how Krishna is sarvasya lokasya. So He's everywhere. He's the friend of everyone. He fulfills everyone's desires. He's the super soul controller, the guru. He gives transcendental knowledge, and like that sense. But Satyavata explains that although you're within the heart, the foolish, because of lusty desires in the heart, cannot explain or cannot understand you. So there's Jananti Santam Hidi Badakamaha. So Badakamaha, which means bewildered because of lusty desire. So all these different kings and things, though they were literally seeing Krishna directly, it's like you can't it's like everybody's saying, show me God, but then they're seeing God, and no, not God doesn't exist. One understanding is that because they have lusty desires within the heart, they're right there with Krishna, but they can't understand them. Krishna, anyways, can't be understood just by just like looking at him. One has to approach Krishna with the devotional mentality. As explained in Bhagavad Gita, that's how Krishna can be known, by bhakti. So these demons literally seeing Krishna directly, but they can't understand them. What to speak of, just like, nowadays, it's like, Krishna is not walking on the planet like how he was then, which is also too, that maybe that can even be more bewildering for some people, because they think, well, he's like walking like me and he's talking like me, and then, he just got married, to this queen, that queen, and this queen. And then it's like the whole thing, they're envious, and they think, well, what are they thinking? Like we were talking about before, I doubt any of the kings were thinking that, like, Krishna, this is Rukmini, and like this is Krishna's eternal consort. Just like when, what was that? I think Satyabhama, when Satyabhama was married to Krishna, and then other people were envious about that, and so they were conspiring in that way, and then they, I forget that person's name, but they instigated for him to kill Satyabhama's father. And so, but they're thinking, what are many things? What are they want to marry this person because they're so beautiful. Rukmini was beautiful in that sense, that the kings were falling off their horses. They were amazed by how beautiful she was. And, and then that's, was it Atmavan Manyate Jagat? And then you think, well, how I think the rest of the world thinks. So Krishna wants to marry this person because they're so beautiful in this sense, and he's lusty just like me. So they can't understand Krishna because of their material desires. And so they're seeing Krishna and interacting with Krishna, and then Krishna's there. He has his own territory. He's in Dwarka. And, how can we get over into Dwarka and fight with Dwarka? So Salva was so much fried out with Krishna. I forgot what triggered it. I don't know if it was because of, maybe it was when Shishupal was killed. But he ate ashes for 1 year, and in order to get a benediction from Shiva, and he got the benediction that he would get I think the spaceship was called Soba, but a spaceship that would cause fear into the Yadu dynasty. So anyways, he got this fancy spaceship, and he went and attacked Dwarka. And Krishna was away at the time. I think Krishna was in Hastinapur. And so he went, and it's described that he showered, I think like snakes and stones and trees and different things on Dwarka. And then by the mystical potency, I think he covered the sun and things like that and made it dark. And so I think he sent his army or things like that into Dwarka. So anyways, he caused some problems there. And he fought with the Yadu dynasty. Ultimately, he was killed by Krishna, and he put up a fight for some time. Krishna came, and then Krishna killed him. So he engaged in these severe austerities in order to cause disturbance to Krishna. But the same thing, with these lusty desires, he's thinking that, well, Dwarka is some tract of land, and I'll conquer it in this way or whatever. And then also too, then they're saying, well, Krishna, he's in Dwarka because he ran away. I think Krishna he even said that about himself, but in a joking way to Rukmini, that he took shelter of the sea in that sense. And then Rukmini says, like that, I forget exactly what she says in response, but she gives the correct understanding how Krishna took shelter of the sea, or the sea takes shelter of him in that sense. So there's another point I could touch up upon, but I don't really want to elaborate on it so much. But I don't know if I have it here. I can touch on it briefly. So, and this is an important point. Prabhupada also makes this point in many places in his purports. But Sanatana Goswami makes the point in the elaborately in this Brihad Bhagavatamrita, that I'll just read the translation here. When we speak of Krishna's kindness, but even the punishments he metes out are worthy of praise. To this there have been many witnesses, including Kamsa, Kaliya, and Putana, and many more distant past, Bali and others. So he makes the point that Krishna's punishments of individuals, it's also an aspect of his kindness, and it's praiseworthy. As mentioned in this verse, that when Krishna punished these individuals, either they were liberated from material tinges and attained a personal liberation, or they attained the specific form of the Lord in Vaikuntha. So the main point with all this is that Krishna is merciful to the demons, and he's bestowing great mercy. I mean, it's, if someone is so envious of Krishna and does such nasty things as most of these demons did, and tried to kill him or try to thwart him in some way or just cause him inconvenience to him, and then Krishna gives that individual elevates them to his own personal abode and purifies that person. As Srila Prabhupada ends this purport, and also as this was mentioned in this verse I read from the 11th canto, we can think, and the Acharyas also, and this is actually a similar phrase that's mentioned, but in short, then what can be said about those who constantly fix their minds on Lord Krishna in a favorable, loving mood? So what to speak about those who are serving Krishna, dedicating their life to Krishna, and giving up everything for Krishna consciousness? So the point is that they obtained something much greater than all these demons. So we can feel inspired by that in very many ways, and we may be engaging in Krishna consciousness, and we may not be as big as a demon as Pralamba and trying to kidnap Balaram and take him to some secluded place to kill him. We may not be at that level of our envious of Krishna, but we may be a little envious here and there, and maybe we're not so inspired to do this, that, and the other thing, or whatever, or like that. We have our own little hang-ups or material desires in our heart by which we cannot understand Krishna properly, or we don't understand Krishna's devotees properly. But we can take inspiration that, the difference between, maybe me and KĽMSA is that, at least I'm endeavoring to serve Krishna favorably and follow Krishna's system, follow Krishna's program. And so Krishna will definitely be merciful, and Krishna will be more merciful than he was to these demons who were trying to kill him. So if his mercy is so great for those that are envious of him, what to speak of those who are trying to serve him favorably? So there's inspiration there to take from that. And there's always room to be inspired in Krishna consciousness. And there's another way we can think of these demons, how they engage in Krishna's pastimes, but also too about how they how even though they were so envious and so nasty, that they were able to obtain Krishna's mercy. So what to speak of those that are serving Krishna and giving everything to Lord Chaitanya and the Sankirtan movement? So so much can be said about that, but I believe that that's kind of like the essence of this verse here, as Srila Prabhupada brings out. I mean, different points can be made, and so much can be said too about Arjuna, Bhima, Muchukunda, all these different personalities. But anyways, that's some small thing. I mean, I didn't really bring out so many points from this purport. So much can be said about that, but we can meditate upon that and we can think on that point. I think that's the most important point. That I'll just read this last sentence. Since such is the benefit of those who played with the Lord inimically, one can imagine what would be the position of those who devoutly serve the Lord in transcendental relationship with Him. So if we ever feel down in Krishna consciousness or whatever, or I don't know if I'll make it, we can read that verse and we could think, well, dang, if Pondraka made it, I think there might be a little hope for me down the line eventually. Pondraka is pretty much out there, and all these other people, Pondraka, Pralamba, Denuka, Baka, KĽMSA, all these, if there's some hope from them, there might be a little bit of hope for me. It might be, I don't know. If we think that we're more fallen than them, then we're probably on the right track because we have some genuine humility. I'm not that humble where I think that I'm more fallen than KĽMSA. Ain't at that stage yet. Or Salva, or all these different things, or Duvida, it's pretty wild. I don't know. I don't even think we have so many things to say, but I don't want to say them. So yeah, we can feel inspired in that sense that, like KĽMSA tried to kill Krishna and then all these people, I think I'm doing pretty good. So we shouldn't feel we shouldn't feel too good in the sense that we think that whatever. We become puffed up, thinking, I'm going to go back to Godhead, like most definitely, it's like, there's no doubt absolutely about it, I'm not like KĽMSA, whatever. We may not be like comps, but we may have the same attitude. That's what we have to be careful of. So anyways, Hare Krishna. If there's any questions or comments about anything, we can get into that now. Yes.
So, just want to make sure I heard you correctly. When Krishna went to Dwarka, he took shelter of the sea.
Well, that's what he says.
The sea.
I can maybe pull that. In a joking way. I mean, it's not like Krishna took shelter of the sea. That whole pastime is that Krishna is joking with Rukmini, just kind of like, in the sense, I'll try to find it here, but he's just joking that, he's not all about king. And he's just telling you he should have married somebody else, like Saul. Yeah. But he said that about himself. Geographically, Dwarka is like on the sea. Dwarka is island. Okay. It's like, my understanding is that made by the music mostly that was like building in the sea. So when Dwarka, when Krishna winds up his pastime, there's no reason to run. That's my understanding, could be wrong, but Dwarka presently on this earth is underwater, or is it? Yeah, it's underwater. I've never been there, I want to go, but there's a Dwarka, the Dom or whatever, is in, not the Dom or whatever, but the Dom, they have like Dwarka, the holy site, like in Gujarat, that's where the actual city. That's not existing. At least like physically, to our mature eyes. It's existing eternally, but when Krishna wound up his pastimes, it went to the sea.
Was that Mahosa Prabhu? No. I have another question. Maybe I could ask in the meantime.
Yeah, you can ask while he's going.
So we often say, for instance, if someone's like trying to prevent our book distribution, or someone's criticizing the devotees for their weird clothes and their weird hair,
Yeah.
that they're envious.
Yeah.
The conventional use of the word envious, as I understand, it's like something like jealous.
Yeah.
Where like, it's a feeling of like hate and resentment.
Yeah.
Based off of like, you have something that I want and I don't have.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, like, when Srila Prabhupada uses this word, the demons are envious, or when we say somebody's envious, is it used in that conventional sense where they like actually want what we have, or is this like did Prabhupada use this term unconventionally?
I've heard different things. So I think the original word is matsarya, it's envy. But I've heard devotees explain, like, I guess the archaic meaning of envy is just like this intense like malice or like hatred or something. But it could be taken both ways also, because someone may hate somebody just intrinsically, but then someone may hate somebody because of the qualities they have or something, Like they hate like Krishna because he has, this beautiful wife, and like I wanted her, and like she should have for me, like Shishupal was thinking. So, but they too can just, they could hate book distribution or devotee clothes or whatever, or be envious in that sense. Because, there's different ways of analyzing it, but in essence, it's, at heart, they don't want to surrender to Krishna. So when they see something that reminds them of Krishna or pushes other people in that way, it triggers some reaction. They want to stop it. So that's kind of like another direction on that. Yeah. So.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna. So I had, a few questions in this regard. We see that in the verse itself, Matsya is given as an example, and as far as I remember from the Mahabharata, they were like an ally. They were an ally to the Pandava army, and they fought on Krishna's side, on the Pandava side, which means on Krishna's side. So, do you have any insight into that from your reading Laghu Bhagavatamrita or Priyas Bhagavatamrita or something like that?
About Matsya?
Yeah.
No. Matsya is... Oh. I don't know. No, I don't know anything. I thought this was something from Mahabharata.
Yeah, it is. So as far as I know, he was favorable.
Yeah.
So I was thinking maybe like fought with the Lord could also mean fought along with the Lord.
Well, it says that here. It says that they fought either with the Lord Hari directly or with him. So that means either they fought, with him, or like they fought under him, like in his army. Yeah.
I see. Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, some of these names are like, whatever, devotees.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Okay.
Yeah. They're not all demons that are mentioned in this list.
Okay.
Sorry if
okay.
if I confuse someone in that sense.
And another thing also about the whole hate thing, that Narada Muni actually says to Yudhishthira Maharaj in the 7th canto,
Yeah.
that actually, these demons think of Krishna more intensely than devotees like myself. He's talking about Narada Muni, and speaking of how fortunate they are because their intensity is higher.
Yeah.
And that may be true on a mundane sense, that hate may be a more intense feeling than love. But on the transcendental level, the love that the gopis feel it can't even compare. Like it's so much higher. It's like billion, gazillion times more than so-called love that the so-called hate that the demons feel towards Krishna.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that. That's Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody have anything else? Yes.
Question, but do you know why some demons who were killed by Krishna go directly to his planet, and why others just merge into the impersonal Brahmajyoti?
Yeah, it depends. My understanding is that those who they attain the bodily form as Krishna, like they, at least from what I've understood, so like Kamsa and Pundraka, there might be others, I don't remember, but they like meditated on Krishna's form, like specifically, like very intensely. Other demons attaining their personal Brahmajyoti, I'm not 100% sure. I don't know like the exact reason like why they did. Well, I mean, I think it's mentioned here in the verse. Let me see. Yeah, there was something that I read. It says something like they were on their mindset or something.
That's interesting because Ravana. It said that Ravana was also meditating upon Krishna, but then I think he had to take another birth as another demon.
Yeah, so that's a technical thing. I'll comment on that in a second, but yeah, but there was one thing that Prabhupada mentioned in the Prabhupada. I'm trying to find it that answers the question exactly, but I'm trying to see. I think I just found it. So yeah, this has already been explained. Otherwise, anyways, okay, yeah. So the sentence, I'll just read it. All persons who participated in the battlefield of Kurukshetra or otherwise with the Lord or with Baladev, etc., would benefit by attaining spiritual existence according to the situation in their minds at the time of death. So depend on the situation in the devotee mind at the time of death. As far as Ravana goes, that's mentioned in Laghu Bhagavatamrita, but that the Krishna is the only one that when he kills somebody, he gives liberation. As far as that goes, they cite that. So like yeah, because Vishnu, Kalanimi was killed by Vishnu, and then he took birth again. They're purified, but then by being killed by Krishna, they can be liberated. What is this? The personal Brahman, or actually go to the spiritual world. Yeah. So, is it a question? Or you just. Yeah, that's there, but I don't think that's there in this particular instance. But I don't think that at every single that's the Acharyas mentioned that it's not that devotees come down and every single what's it called, for every single Ram leader to become Ravana. Sometimes it's a demon, sometimes it's a devotee. It's mentioned with Jai and Vijay that they don't always fall down to take that birth. So that's one instance that's there. But then this is also explained that Krishna gives liberation when he kills. So, okay, all right. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.